Safety margin of sales. The margin of safety is the difference between actual or budgeted sales and the break-even point. It is the amount by which sales can drop before losses are incurred. A high safety margin lowers the risk of not breaking even. To calculate the safety margin, break-even sales must be known. We will use the following example to calculate the safety margin. Again, the margin of safety is the amount by which actual or budgeted sales exceed the break point. In our example, we have actual budgeted sales of $12,000. We've calculated the break-even sales as $9,524, which means our safety margin is $2,476. The safety margin is the cushion between actual or budgeted sales and break-even sales. Sales will have to drop $2,476 to yield zero profit or for the company to break even. The safety margin is also expressed as a percentage. In the above example, the safety margin is 20.63% of sales, which is $2,476 divided by 12,000. We will use the contribution format income statement in order to calculate break-even sales. We are determining from looking at this that the variable expenses are going to be a consistent portion of sales. And from that, once we have the variable expenses deducted from sales, we will know the contribution margin, the amount left over in order to contribute to fixed expenses. And from the contribution margin, we will deduct fixed expenses in order to yield net operating income. We're setting up the information to solve the problem in a consistent manner by taking total dollars here, which we're using from our example. We're also expressing it on a per unit basis. This represents 2,000 sales, and we'll also look at it in the consistent and stable relationship between variable expenses and sales, which is 58% in this example, which means that the contribution margin will be 42%. To obtain break-even sales, which we will need in order to calculate the safety margin of sales, the formula is break-even sales is equal to fixed costs divided by the contribution margin ratio. Break-even sales equals fixed cost divided by the contribution margin ratio. We know our fixed costs are $4,000 and our contribution margin ratio is 42%. This is $4,000 divided by the contribution margin ratio of 42%, which is going to yield $9,524. To obtain the margin of safety sales, the formula is actual or budgeted sales minus break-even sales. To obtain the safety margin of sales percentage, we're going to divide safety margin sales by actual or budgeted sales. So in this instance, we know that our sales were $12,000, and this represents our sales of $12,000, and sales represents 100%. So sales divided by sales equals 100% because we're going to express everything as a percentage of sales. We calculated earlier our break-even sales of $9,524, and taking that as a percentage of sales means our break-even sales were 79.36% of total sales. Now, safety margin sales will be sales minus the break-even sales. We can take the break-even sales and deduct it from 100% and come up with 20.64%, or we could take $2,476 and divide it by 12 in order to come up with the safety margin percentage.